So if you haven't guessed already, in this edition of Motorcar File, we present you the all-new 2015 Lamborghini Huracán, the latest bull out of the Santa Agata Bolognese factory. We're really excited to present an in-depth review of this car because while it's the little brother to the Aventador, it's just as extreme and uncompromising. And it's very nice to see a lot of the same DNA which produced that amazing Veneno and that polarizing one-of-one Egoista. So following that, this car employs a wide use of that traditional hexagon shape, and it's carried out throughout the car. So Filippo Perini, who is Lambo's design chief, perfectly explains every curve on the car and the message they're trying to convey. And it's actually very interesting to sit and listen to him talk about the Huracán and the level of thought and detail that went into designing everything about it. So the front of the car is where you can get a good sensation of the complex combination of edges and precision details. And to stray away from being totally geometric, there are blends of concave and convex curves over the fenders. And the headlights have a sweep to the side rather than to the back. There are, of course, a feature we like, floating fins above the front diffuser, which break into a monolithic cavity, one opening that sweeps from one side to the other, and is offset by a grille filled with, again, hexagon-type shapes and geometric features. The tail of the car echoes the front and, of course, all the other details, and has a unique blend of angles as the surfaces exit. Of course, the top of the tail sweeps up for aerodynamic and styling purposes. And the side profile of the Huracán is really, truly a sight to see because there's a hidden, they call it hidden, but there's a hidden line that it's sort of continuous. It sweeps from the roof, from the A-pillar, all the way back over the intake and completes a perfect hexagon. And another thing we like is how small and how well integrated the intakes are. So this Huracán has a newer generation carbon ceramic brake setup, which is a lot more precise and a lot easier to modulate. Of course, you have 20-inch wheels and a V10, which carries over and is more efficient and tuned different than the Huracán to produce 602 horsepower and 413 foot-pounds of torque. And we'll listen to it here with the mode selector set to Corsa. Before we get into the interior detail portion of the review, there are a couple of things to note. I think the first is that the misconception is that Lambo strayed away from naming this car after a bull and called it Huracán after a storm, which is not the case. Huracán was a fighting bull. It was a Spanish breed of bull that went undefeated a long time ago, 1870s or something. So it's well deserved to have a Lambo, brand new Lambo named after it. The other thing is that while this car has launch control, it's called thrust mode, and there's no button for it. You just turn off the traction and put the mode selector in Corsa, hold the brake, and mash the gas. But we'll get into everything in detail. An exciting opportunity. Here we go. Here's the new key. So if you're familiar with Audi, you're familiar with this key, except that obviously the Audi won't have this gorgeous Lamborghini logo embedded into the polished metal portion. And of course into the handle portion, an embossed Lamborghini logo here. So it's a gorgeous new key, but very similar to an Audi key, almost identical. So you have lock, your trunk compartment in the front, and unlock here. And something cool about the Huracán, it is push button start, so you don't have to have the key into an ignition. But when you push unlock, the door switch blades out for you to open. Now, in the case of an emergency, the valet key, you can remove the valet key with this button, and you can actually remove this piece here and insert the valet key to open the car. It is truly a magnificent machine all around. I mean, it's the most exciting supercar we've ever tested just because it's so easy to drive, it's so ergonomic, and we'll talk about all of that. So here in the door panel, you get a gorgeous Alcantara inlay with a gloss black finish around the door handle. And this car has contrasting stitching which matches the orange calipers on the carbon ceramic brakes. So that's a gorgeous feature. Really, really nice touch here. And something odd that we noticed, I don't know if it's odd, it probably has some design purpose, but this little tab wedges into this slot here on the door sill. So that's pretty unique. Haven't seen that before. And you get a gorgeous metal door sill with the Huracán, geometric Huracán logo there. And let's get in and start her up. So startup procedure is pretty easy. You put your foot on the brake and you lift this fighter jet inspired switch cover and push start, and we have ignition. There is storage over here behind the steering wheel, behind this panel. So for now I'm going to stow the key there, and we are right now when the car starts. So you have this gauge layout. So we'll start with the gauges. You can switch the way these gauges look with these buttons here. You have your lap timer and instrument cluster menu button here that will take you through your trip information, next service due, battery, average speed, max speed, and lap times. And you can cycle through that with this button here. But you can lay out by default, when we pick this car up, by default starts with this layout, but if you hold this button down, you can switch that layout to full navigation. What they say full navigation means that right now it's in radio, but if I switch it over to navigation, I'll show you how to do that here in a second. You'll get a full display of your navigation. Of course, you still get a speed gauge here. You also have a more dynamic layout, which is just your gauges. So just your tachometer, your speed. And an interesting feature, you can switch these around so that this shows your speed and this shows your revolutions per minute or your RPM. And the way you switch between those is by holding the up button of these three switches. So if I hold this again, it switches back into RPM and gives you your speed there on the bottom right hand corner. We're going to switch this back into the mode that it was when we picked the car up for the owner. But you can, it's very interesting. You can cycle through that, and because of the way everything is laid out now, you don't have a separate navigation screen. It's now integrated into this 12-inch TFT screen here, and during daylight, during nighttime, it's very clear. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Back at the door panel, so you have your door function here, regular door. It's not like the Aventa door. Door opens traditional. It's not a scissor door setup. You have unlock, lock, and the controls for your mirror. You have heated mirrors, retractable mirrors, and fully adjustable driver and passenger mirrors, and everything you can just rotate and move around. A little bit forward to that, you have your switches for your headlight. So you have your auto headlight function, daytime running lamps, your headlights themselves, your rear fog light, and your instrument cluster brightness here, all laid out very fighter jet inspired and very gorgeous and very tactile to the touch. So that was a real impressive piece for us. So just below the headlight switches, you have your control for your front trunk compartment in your rear engine bay. So you can open those with these buttons here. You have gorgeous metal finish foot pedals. And just to the left of that, you have this big geometric speaker cover in the door panel. So everything echoes this sort of geometric look, lines, angles everywhere. And you can see that all of the vents have this geometric look. Features on the outside have that geometric look. Lots of ostentatious angles and lines everywhere. But the beauty of this car is that it's just so ergonomic inside and so easy to drive. So coming over back to the center panel, we'll talk about the switches laid out here at the top. You have your window switch, driver window switch, passenger window switch. You have your front bumper lifter, so in case you're on a ramp, you don't want to scrape anything, you have your bumper lifter here. You have the traction control system, stability system, ESC on, off, and this is how you get into launch control, is by turning this off. You have your hazard lights and your camera system, your parking sensor system. So this little screen here right now is showing information about the car, oil pressure, oil temperature, and battery. However, just below these switches you have the climate control. With the climate control, this screen will relay what you're doing other than showing these gauges. For example, if I push the fan button, it'll switch over to the fan speed, and I can turn that up and down to switch the fan speed of the AC. Similarly, once it goes back into gauges, if I push this button down, it'll give me the temperature and I can turn the temperature. So respectively, whatever you push in the climate control will reflect here on the screen to tell you what you're doing. So everything has a very ergonomic side. And obviously that's credit to Audi for handling all of that. So you have your heat seater, your seater heat right here. So like the driver has 3 settings for the heated seats. The passenger has 3 settings for the heated seats. You have your rear defrost, your air circulation, and your automatic mode. It's odd to say the manual says to leave the AC in automatic mode with a temperature of around 72 degrees, and that's the assumption is the cabin will always be comfortable. So just below the climate control function, you have the controls for the multimedia system, which if you're used to Audi, this should be very familiar to you. You have two knobs, right and left. This is your main navigation, and this will do your volume, your track forward, track back, and anything to do with the stereo, the radio, media, whatever, is going to be on this side, including the tone on off. And this will navigate everything else, your navigation, your menu, car settings, info, and telephone. And let's go through a little bit of that navigation now. So for example, I push menu here. When I push menu here, the main menu appears here in my TFT display. So that's the main menu when you push home, basically, for example. So you have these 4 buttons here, the top left, top right, bottom right. Those correspond to options, if available, up here. Top left, top right, bottom right. So for example, right now, the options I have is time and setup. So if I push this right now, it will take me into the time setup window. And obviously, one of my favorite things, the back button, easy to go back if you get stuck anywhere. And you can see that by red LED, it's highlighted for me which sub menu I'm in. And all of these knobs push. So everything has a push feature, push function. If it's a menu, if it's a selection of temperature, or anything like that, it has a push feature on all the dials. So we'll go back into the main menu. So here we are in the main menu. Now to get to these different options here, all you do is rotate this knob and that will take you through the options. Now we have tone here, radio, media, navigation, information about the car, telephone, information about traffic as well, telephone feature, the car itself, so service settings, anything like that. But similarly, everything you see there is laid out via a direct button here. So it's 2 ways to access the same thing, whichever way you're comfortable. So let's go first into the navigation button. And you can see here, gorgeous map. You can zoom in with the knob and zoom out just by turning the knob. And it has a little bit of a delayed response, but you know, being that it's a supercar, that's okay. The menu we looked at. The telephone, I don't have a telephone set up, but if you had a Bluetooth phone, it would show you there what phone is connected, and it does connect via media as well, so the music and all that stuff will come through the telephone there. Information, this is traffic information, closed roads, accidents, things like that. The car submenu, which has your vehicle settings, exterior lighting, central locking. So I selected that by pushing this. Now I'm going to push back to get back to the main menu, and I can turn that knob, see if what I have in my driver assist. You can set 2 speed warnings. One via this button, this check button here will set a speed warning, an initial speed warning, and then there's another speed warning you set here, a more permanent one within the deeper into the menu here. So of course, if you need to get anywhere, you rotate and you can turn anything on or off. Again, pushing back takes you back to the main menu, and we'll see servicing and checks and tell you tire pressure monitoring and things like that. So that's your car menu. We saw navigation, we saw the main menu, we saw telephone, the information portion, which has information about traffic, and the car menu itself, which is shown here now. So going to the radio, you can see we have all the stations already set in there. However, again, the 4 top quadrants are available. I can push, say for instance, I want to go into settings. I just push this button. The red LED indicates that now we're in that submenu, which is the settings. I can push the bottom left button and it'll switch to functions. I can push the top left button, it'll go to presets, and I can push the top right button, it'll go to band. So if you push back, obviously it'll go to the main menu. Media, I don't have anything connected, no phone, nothing connected via Bluetooth, nothing connected via USB, so there's nothing's going to be shown there. However, if you had anything to connect, you have a USB cable connection here, interface for the old iPhone cable, and they have another one for the newer iPhone cable. You can buy separate, but your USB connection here. You do have your CD insert slot here with memory card insertion slots. So you do have other available options for the media portion of the infotainment. And of course, if you push tone, you have all of the functions for your bass, treble, and all that good stuff. So if you're familiar with Audi, all of this stuff will be second nature, because it's literally just like an Audi. So below the infotainment, you have the start-stop switch. Transmission operation is very easy. You lift up to put it in reverse. The car's in reverse right now. You can push park to put the car in park. You can push the manual mode in other driving modes. We'll talk about the manual mode there. And you have electronic parking brake, engaged and disengaged. So coming back to the steering wheel. Oh, and one thing I should mention, when you're in reverse, you do get a rear camera. It's not the best resolution rear camera, but at least they provide you a rear camera, and it's shown right there to make parking easier. But coming down back to the steering wheel, we talked about this with the submenus inside the instrument cluster. Off to the left here, you have your turn signal, left and right, and you have your high beam pass button, or if you hold it, it'll keep the high beams on permanently. You have your wiper function and your wiper wash, and this car is equipped with a headlight washing system. Down below that, you have the Anima switch, A-N-I-M-A, and that's an acronym that stands for something. I can't recall what it is. It's pretty long, but the Anima switch basically switches the drive modes from Strada to Sport to Corsa. Strada being street, Sport being general sporty driving, Corsa being race course or racetrack driving. And in these two, Sport and Corsa, you can switch it over into manual. You get better, more tighter steering, different steering feel, more exhaust, the flaps stay open, better throttle response, more aggressive shifts, and basically what people are more comfortable or familiar with when switching into more aggressive driving modes with other supercars. Same thing. So the shift paddles are mounted to the steering column, so they stay in place. And one thing that I love about these shift paddles is that they're so large. You know, you can't, some car companies give little shift paddles. I mean, they probably function great, but they're not, this being so large, you're not going to have a hard time finding exactly which paddle you need to get into. So of course, with all these newer cars, they're packing all this technology into these panels. So the panel itself is rather thin, allowing for a pass-through storage. So you do have storage back here below this panel. You have this gorgeous geometric finish, embossing details here that echo everywhere. And I just love it. I mean, in this car, it works so well in the new Lambos. Everything being straight, everything being geometric and sort of sculpted. It's a really, really nice look. You get a nice glove compartment. And so what we'll do here is go into the passenger compartment, look at the front trunk, see what we can put in there, what kind of space that has. Look in the engine bay, open the fuel door here, and go ahead and switch into the driving portion of the review. So we'll open the front trunk here. We'll open the engine bay. We will unlock the door to make sure the fuel cap stick will open. So traditional to Lamborghini, you get the firing order, ignition order, you get a gorgeous X-brace, And here you can see the combination of carbon fiber and aluminum back here in the rear bulkhead. You have your fuel cap, newer style fuel cap. There's not a little cap there that you screw on. You just open and close via the door itself. In the passenger compartment, it's the same feeling you get as the driver. You do have side airbags here, near knee airbags. You can see a good view of that storage compartment there, and this contrast stitching is just gorgeous in this car, set up with this black on black. The seat functions are very easy. The curvature adjustment for the lumbar is here, same for the driver, and the intensity left and right is here. You do have all of your backrest control and your seat rest forward and back, up and down. So they're fully adjustable seats, very nice leather, gorgeous leather, very lush leather. So we'll open up the trunk here. It's not that big of a trunk, but I suppose it'll do the job. They did give us white Lamborghini gloves, like mechanic gloves, so when you work on the car, and if you needed to jump the car, you open up this panel and there's connections for the battery there, and you have a 12-volt DC power supply. So let's drive the car and let's see how it sounds and feels on the roads. Probably the most exciting portion is the driving portion, so let's get to it. Alrighty folks, so here we go. Here's the driving portion of the review of the all-new Lamborghini Huracan, the Gallardo replacement. And what a fantastic sensation, honestly. One of the most ergonomic supercars I've ever driven. Right now we're in Strada, but we're gonna go ahead and switch it over to Sport. And you can see a downshift blip for me right there, because it's in Sport, everything's a little more aggressive. We're gonna put the shifting in manual. The A disappeared, so now it tells me I'm in manual shifting, so I can command the shifts up and down with the paddles. But other than that driving part, I mean, everything is really easily accessible. The reading lamps in the top stack here are very easily accessible. The door unlock switch, everything is real quick and real easy. And it's the same thing with the MMI system, the climate control system, and all that other stuff involved with the infotainment. So you have 602 horsepower, 413 foot-pounds of torque. You get max horsepower at 8,250 RPM, max torque at 6,500. There is just absolutely wild performance numbers, 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. I read Car and Driver did it in 2.5 seconds. I mean, that puts it in Aventador and Veyron territory. But the odd part is the Dr. Jekyll and Miss Hyde sort of personality, right? You know, when you're going in Strada and everything's in automatic and the suspension is in soft, if you didn't know outside was that ostentatious Lamborghini wedge shape, you would think you're driving any other car. It's just that comfortable and that easy. But you give it a couple of downshifts, and all of a sudden you're dealing with another beast in total. I mean, this thing is alive. It makes you feel alive. The comfort in it, the comfort meaning the confidence behind making it go fast, is just amazing. I mean, you can get all of that extravagant Lambo performance, or you can calm down and drive cool and comfortable like you were in a luxurious Audi, which you really are in a luxurious Audi. It's important to note that the only thing that carried over from the Gallardo is the V10. It's a little more, obviously a little more powerful here. They have some new fuel system. It has a beautiful Italian acronym, Lamborghini Direzione. So I mean, it's a beautiful name to say that it's more efficient, more fuel efficient, and more powerful. You do get crossover, big time crossover from the R8 in the double clutch, which is known as the LDF, I believe, the Doppia Frizione. In this car's first Lamborghini with a double clutch, and it works absolutely amazing in this car. I would imagine it would be doing the same thing in the R8, but the way it's tuned in this car is just fantastic. Quick shifts, I mean, you don't notice the shifts. You get no power loss, no torque gaps, and the finesse between each gear is just amazing. So I mean, all around they did a fantastic job with this car. I mean, we've reviewed every single, basically every single supercar so far, popular ones, the F12, the 458. We have yet to do a 650S, but we did the MP4. And all of those cars, you felt you were in a supercar the whole time. By the way, the ergonomic work, everything else, sort of, you feel like I'm in a supercar. This is the first car, my favorite, smaller supercar so far, that you don't get that. You can turn it on and off. When it's off, it's just beautiful. It's just a dream. When it's on, it has all your attention. It's amazing, just breathtaking, just breathtaking. What a sound. Here we go, downshift in the tunnel. It feels planted. And that throttle overrun. I don't know what they did to make that sound, but anytime this car is in overrun, or when you go full bore, you pressurize and you let go, I don't know if it's just a little more fuel they're letting in to cool the cylinder bay off. I don't know what it is, but when you go and you let go, I mean, it just gurgles and barks and does all kinds of things. This is the first time I've heard a sound like this, and it's amazing. Those sounds, you can't get used to it. Every time it does it, it's amazing. I'll tell you though, until the twin turbo 458 comes out, this has to be the king. I mean, just by the way it drives, the looks it gets, the new approach Lambo is using with the Aventador in this, all angular, all geometric. I mean, this really is a forward look into how supercars are going to begin to look, and it's just amazing. And I'm so happy that we got an opportunity to review this car and bring it in detail. So here we go again. I can't, I'm sorry, I wish I could gather my thoughts and not laugh when this car opens, but it's hard. So as we wind the review down here and conclude, we just want to thank you for joining us, watching this review. Let us know what you think. Comment, subscribe, and follow. We're everywhere at or / Motorcar File. Thanks again, and let us know what you want to see in the future.